because they're doing a separate drive, so you're supposed to.
Good evening. Welcome everybody to the ZBA meeting. May 24th. Roll call is Mr. White is here, Mr. Eaton, me, Mrs. Honay, and Mr. Bush. And representing staff is Mr. Smith and Mr. Laddie, our attorney. Mr. Bush, would you like to start it out with pledge of allegiance, please?
That's what John says. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, and I would ask just ahead of the meeting here that everybody turns off their cell phones, please. Put them on vibrate or something. All right, approval of the agenda. You have approval, please? Is there any additions or any corrections? Okay.
So moved.
All right, we've got Mr. Bush supported by
Support.
Mr. Eaton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have approval of the minutes. That is from March 15th.
I'll make the motion.
Okay. That motion is Mr. White?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. White, support by Mr. Bush. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Public comments. Do we have anybody in the public that would like to talk about anything other than the case that's already on the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, we'll close public comment. Any additional correspondence?
None.
Okay. No old business. Into new business. ZBA case 22-002. That is at 6331 South Saginaw Street. Zone General Commercial. The applicant is Saginaw Grand Blanc LLC, represented by Remy Jonah. Proposed variance to add 8 parking spaces to the existing parking lot. Do we have anybody here representing this project? Okay. Feel free to come on up and give your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Remy. The address is 6331 South Saginaw Street. The property manager. I'd like to thank everybody for being here today, everyone included. We are currently facing a situation at the plaza we're getting multiple calls throughout the week from different tenants having issues with customers either not being able to get parking or maybe having to circle around just due to the fact that right now there is an overload of people trying to get into the plaza and get to the businesses, and we're seeing that affecting the parking lot. We went to the drawing board and tried coming up with a plan to add some more parking to this site. The parking that you see on the plan seemed like with our engineer, like the only area where it would make sense to add this new parking due to the fact that you need a certain amount of distance for parking spaces and then a certain amount of distances for a car to be able to travel back and forth to be able to get out of that parking spot and out of the development safely. So these spots were picked specifically due to the fact that this is really the only place that we're able to place them if we were to add any. We initially tried creating a little buffer between ourselves and the neighbor in the form of landscape to maybe try and put some plantings instead of an ornamental fence. Unfortunately, there wasn't really enough room to accommodate for a sufficient parking space and receive that landscape buffer. So we elected to go with the ornamental fence. Other than that, really just here to answer any questions that you guys might have or any concerns that any of the neighbors might have as well. Thank you.
Any commissioners have any questions or anything at this time? Okay, we'll turn to Mr. Smith for his report.
Thank you. This is case number 22-002, 6331 South Saginaw Street for Saginaw Grand Blanc LLC. Currently zoned general commercial, parcel number 12-09-526-054. The subject parcel is approximately 160 by 225. The zoning of the surrounding properties is also general commercial, except to the east, they're zoned R3 residential single family. The original site plan for this site was approved in 2018. Saginaw Grand Blanc LLC is trying to alleviate parking lot issues that have arisen since the original site plan was approved. The types of businesses in the building currently require more parking than has been previously approved. The applicant is proposing to add 8 additional parking spaces and a fence along the rear lot line. The Planning and Zoning Department has requested the fence due to the lights from the cars in the parking lot flooding into the residential lots behind the site. Requested variance, the applicant is seeking a variance for the parking lot rear setback to be 0 feet where 20 is required. Standards for considering a variance are proving a practical difficulty, a unique situation, that it's not self-created, that there's substantial justice, the minimum variance is necessary, and it complies with other laws. Planning and Zoning Department would recommend approval for this case based on the following items. The requested variance meets the spirit and intent of the ordinance. The requested variance alleviates parking space and parking light shed issues. The applicant must install a 6-foot privacy fence to obscure the residential lots in the rear, and the owner is responsible for maintaining the fence in the event it becomes dilapidated or damaged.
Okay, thank you. Any commissioners have any questions of Mr. Smith at this time? No? Okay. Hearing no comments at this time, yes, you can have a seat. I will open this up to the public for any comments. Come on up to the podium. You can give me your name and address for the record, and then try to keep your comments to about 3 minutes. Anybody want to comment on this case?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You're here with, you might as well give your pros.
See if I can approach that some handouts.
Yep, you go ahead with the microphone, and then, yeah, state your name.
My name is Mark Lucas. I own 2 properties, a 6200 case and a 6210 case, directly behind the building in question. And I have some handouts here that kind of detail some issues with self-created difficulty, which I think to some extent it is, since the building was placed on a vacant lot, you know, now there's a parking issue. So the size and configuration of the building do interfere with that. But I know, I know it could affect the outcome of a request like this. But my main issue with those is the 2 homes are rentals, and so I'm just concerned about maintenance issues and aesthetic issues. You know, I know if you've mentioned that the fence would be maintained and so forth. If you can see AutoZone's fence, it's becoming dilapidated, and it's the same sort of fence, I think, that was maybe planned for this location. I know that fence has never been stained, treated, weatherproofed, or anything ever since it was constructed. You got boards falling off and boards warped, and look, if you had a deck that you never treated after 7 or 8 years, that's how that fence looks. So anyway, that's an issue that I think that we can figure something out. But that's my main point, just maintenance issue, aesthetic issue. One of my properties does abut right up to the lot line of the property in question, so mine is right up to it. The other one's offset a bit. I'm not so concerned about that. As long as we can resolve the other issues, you know, and be assured of maintenance and so forth, you know, unlike the AutoZone situation there, then I'd be fine with that. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay, thank you.
Has anybody taken a look at the site?
Can you give me your name?
Name and address, sir?
Kenneth Wright, 6254 Case Avenue. Anyways, I've walked the site a couple times now. And I'm not just talking about this site, but the adjoining sites too, because I wanted to compare the fence that there is there, along there, to what might go up. And from a zoning standpoint, it would seem to me like you guys have let too many businesses go on one little site. And so they got a parking problem. But I don't think our neighborhood should have to solve their parking problems. Now, their help was parking over to where Discount Tire Store is going to go in. They were parking over there. This spring I came back from my Florida vacation, and I picked up a garbage bag full of debris from that site. It was everything from blue rubber gloves that they use in the restaurants there, to their face masks. I probably picked up 15 pairs of the rubber gloves. Face masks, probably at least that many or more. Papers and tumblers from Starbucks and everywhere else that you can think of. They throw them out of the car, and there they go, and they go with the wind, which prevailing winds go to every one of us here. So we are, at least I am, totally against them having any additional parking. Maybe, I mean, I would have thought somebody had checked the parking that was needed for that site when they went in there. And I just think if they put too many businesses in there, then maybe they should downsize and combine some of that space for each business, because we shouldn't have to provide them parking space. We should have that buffer. And that's all I have to say about it. But it would be very interesting if you people would take the time just to walk from the restaurant, from that Coney Island restaurant that's there next to where Discount Tire Store is, and walk the lot down to where AutoZone is. It will open up your eyes. You'll see what we're complaining about.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wright. Anybody else want to make comments? I'll go on this side of the room.
My name is Brent Axe. I live at 3292 Frederick. That's right behind AutoZone. And I do have a copy of your site plan that you have out there in front of you. And what they're talking about is adding 8 more parking spots along the back, which is back here. Here's the 8 they want to add. This dotted line, I am assuming, is the current 20-foot. This dotted line is the current 20-foot limit to where they're supposed to go. Now, I went out there and looked at what parking curbs they already have in. They have in this parking curb that's supposed to be on the other side of truck freight loading, and then it makes it curved. And it looks like it curves right to that dotted line. We've done the same thing over here on this side. We've got a curve up to that dotted line. That means that they had planned for this when this place was built. They planned to open that up for those extra parking spaces. They planned it. And as far as I know, the law is that if a person builds a building like this and they make a plan for it along with parking spaces, that they can't turn right around and put in another variance to add to the current one. Like to come in here now and try to take away that clearance for the residents back there. Now I have a plat map which I did not bring up here with me, but it shows that there is a subdivision back here, but all along Saginaw Street is nothing but houses when it was originally designed. Since then, every time somebody opens up here, the city has said, yay, let's put it commercial. I don't think that's correct, because the last 2 buildings that went down were while I lived there since 7 years ago. There's no way in heck do I want a property line fence. Who is going to maintain the back side of the fence, the resident side? I heard somebody mention maintenance. But does that mean trespassing on our property to get back there to maintain it? How do they come onto our property to maintain the fence? They can't. How do they come around there to trim the lawn along the fence? They can't. So, and I am also against car headlights shining into the backyards. There are people that the lights shine directly in their windows and it disturbs them. People along there, a lot of them are grandparents, or they do have small children. I do not want people coming in here and looking over there and seeing kids playing to give them maybe ideas. I don't want them coming over here to see what things are in people's backyards, to see what they might want to have for themselves.
I'm going to have to ask you to kind of wrap things up a little bit.
Yes.
You've got your...
Well, I got my 3 minutes, and I tried to cover some of the major points that I have. So,
Can you spell your last name for me?
X, A-X.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't get it any easier.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. Anybody else on this side? Yeah. Okay. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Alexis Druzan. I live at 6234 South Case Avenue. I do not want the parking placed behind the buildings there. There are multiple children throughout, and then as well, just as some others have mentioned, the garbage is astronomical. As far as the kids playing, there will be other adults who we do not know who will be coming into the yards if we have to have the fence there. And as far as the fencing, a fence is would not be sufficient. We've already had illegal parkers who have come behind the buildings in the past year, as we know that there was a gun situation where there were armed police officers walking down the road. The school bus was told not to come and our children were to stay inside. And if we already have issues with parking such as that, when it's illegal, what is going to happen when we have people who are allowed to park in that situation come closer to our properties? There are so many issues with this, as well as we moved in knowing that there were ordinances, or at least some of us knowing that there are ordinances where they are not allowed to come so close to our property, that there will be a buffer. And taking this away just shows that we are nothing to the city then, because when the businesses come in, they're also aware of these ordinances, and they should have taken into consideration that there may not be parking. I'm sure there were engineers and whatnot who looked at the plans, the proposals and whatnot, and there may be an issue with their parking. That is something they had to take into consideration. That wasn't like changing the law or changing this to benefit them would just be taking away what we were told when we had moved in. And like all garbage, all parking, the lights, everything aside, I'm still going right back to the safety of our children with moving those cars closer to our homes. And that's really should be what the bottom line is with everything that Grand Blanc is supposed to stand for. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can you give me the spelling of your name, please?
Druzan.
Hi, my name is David Toppy, T-O-P-P-I. I live at 6220 South Case Avenue, directly behind the building. I certainly agree they need more parking spaces, but my biggest concern is safety. I have 3 kids. Making an exception to the setback brings people much closer to our property. I urge you to keep the setback requirements enforced. Just 7 months ago, there was a shooting right behind the same building. We bought security cameras immediately just to be more safe. The extra couple parking spaces bring more people close to our property, which we don't need. Also, we sit lower than the property right there. I mean, we're right behind it, so if they did drive to that fence, they would be coming downhill into my yard, which would be right there. And we're just clearing out the back of our yard to make that the play area right back there at that back line, as I have trees up in the front. So my littlest is 3. I'm also concerned about the upkeep of the fence. Like they said, the AutoZone fence is bad. I mean, I got dumpsters or grease pens right on my property line from Omega, Coney Island, or maybe Detroit Wing Company, I don't know. And allowing the owners to build there increases the chances of encroachment issues, and we don't have the financial means for a land survey. I know they probably have to get one, but you know, people mess up on surveys. Could be their brother, who knows? So I strongly am against it. Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak on this case?
I'd like just to make one additional comment.
Nope.
Site plan,
I'm sorry,
Nope.
sir. I'm sorry, sir.
lot 24 is not 24. That's my property, lot 16. So the site plan is incorrect.
We'll make a note of that. Thank you. All right. And no other additional public comment. I will close that and go back to the commissioners if you've got any questions or comments.
So there was a time when I was on the board that Omega Coney Island was trying to get a dumpster and the grease barrel that you're talking about, like they come in and they were trying to get like the setback to where they could put in the dumpster in that grease barrel. I think they were supposed to take care of the grease barrel. I believe it was something, but we denied that. I know it's still there as well. And we denied that, but it seems like, and I fully understand everybody here and what your concerns are, but a fence is built for keeping people and debris out. Wouldn't that help your situation at all?
I was actually at the meeting because it was directly behind my house with Omega.
Yes.
And we were promised a lot of things with it, such as the grease trap being moved out because it was adjacent to our property and it is something that could hurt children or anything in that area. So it's been, I don't know, 6 months, a year since then, and nothing has been done. And then as far as a fence will do nothing if another person brings a gun to near our properties. And I know I keep going back to that, but that is a recent event, and with all the other events going on with that, that's just, a fence may keep people out who can't jump a fence, which I guess is great, but that all comes back to safety, and are we prioritizing parking spaces for a public business versus the safety of those who live in the community right there?
Depends when that car out when they're pulling right up to my property line, that they hit that fence, they the car.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're going to have to restrict more any conversation from the public. I've already closed. I closed public comment. So
Yes, the question.
I understand.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My question is this: would these 8, if this was back in the original site plan, would these 8 spaces have been allowed in the spot they're in on here?
No.
Okay. I'm good.
Well, so the reason for what's going on here, this was done previous to me coming here. This was done by my predecessor. So I've had complaints from the residents behind this site. If you've been over there, you know there's nothing there to shield the light. This is the only way to get a fence put in here. The site plan is already approved. If this gets denied tonight, it stays as is and nothing changes. I can't require a fence. I can't require anything else because the site plan is already approved. So if you want blocking of headlights, this is the only way that I could get this done. If you don't want the parking spaces, I understand, but this is the only way to alleviate that.
Yes, Mr. Bush.
No, I'm sorry, hold on.
Thank you, Debbie. Couple things, I guess, hearing from the public and then looking at the site plan. I see a multitude of errors with this particular site plan. As I read through the requirements for a variance, it certainly is self-created. There was a white box building built on a site without any tenants. The tenants came later. There was issues at the township that places were approved with improper parking. So it's a multitude of errors from the developer to the township, and now here we are to pick up the pieces. Which I was very disappointed when I saw this last week when I got the packet, because I have to deal with everybody else's crap. That being said, I'm very glad that the 6200, 6210, and 6220 all came out today, so thank you. I was gonna go knock on your doors and I didn't want to be rude, so I walked the site, I looked at it. If it was me, I want a fence. I don't want the garbage, I don't want the lights, I don't want the people, I want a fence. Now, whether there's parking there or not, that's only my opinion. Somebody else's opinion might be no fence, and they want to still look at the building. If I'm even going to remotely consider this, the fence is going to go across the entire site, not just a little bit. And it's going to have to be maintained. Again, I don't feel like it's my job to pick up pieces of other people's messes. But this is what we're charged with today. If we leave it, personally, I don't go to this site. I went one time and I will never go back. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that won't go back because of the parking. So these 8 parking spots probably aren't going to pick up the employees for the wings alone. They have at least 5 employees. So you're still going to have employee problems because you have 5 buildings there. So 8 spots, is it going to help? Yes. Is it going to fix the problem? Absolutely. There's too much building on too small of a site. Now, that being said, our ordinances require certain buildings and certain parking spaces. I read under, I think, the first section of the variance, it said something about it was Grand Blanc Township's issues. Well, I don't believe it's our issues. It's just too much building. You could have put a smaller building, you could have put more parking. It didn't happen, so.
Ms. Sonia? You finished?
No.
Oh, sorry, okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm struggling, yes or no. I could go either way right now. I think if a yes vote, it's a yes vote to give the residents a fence, not to give them additional parking, because I think it helps the residents more with the fence. But I see 2022, David is against it. He wants to see the building, I guess. And I respect that. Huh? Right, and I respect your opinion. And 6210 said he's okay with it as long as it's maintained. So here I'm 50-50. I got, now I'm 50-50 again. So anyway, that's my 2 cents for what it's worth.
So originally because I did extensive research on this before I did my review, the original building was in compliance, the original site was in compliance with the minimum required parking spaces. The problem was my predecessor allowed higher use businesses to go in there and the parking wasn't taken into consideration. And we're left with where we're at today. And the fence issue, if the fence gets dilapidated, you have to call it in, call code enforcement. They are in charge, hold on, sir, they are in charge of handling blight and fence issues. If you don't call it in, we are a reactive community. You have to let them know.
Well, it may be reactive community.
Sir, public comment?
Like the township should make sure their ordinances are being
Public comment has been closed, sir. I'm sorry.
So code enforcement is the department that is in charge of maintaining any ordinances in the book, along with my help. I'm not in charge of that department as of yet, but that is in the works. So just so that's aware. But as of today, I'm not in charge of code enforcement.
I do have a question. We've got 32 feet before we get to the rear yard setback of 20 feet. We've got a dumpster back there and loading area. I guess depending on the truck that's going to be accessing that area, is there a way to move those 20 spaces maybe off the 0 property line and move them towards the building more? You're going to be reducing that 32 foot. I don't know if that's going to give enough radius for maneuvering the truck.
as the plan was submitted, our fire marshal said that the turning radiuses are okay as it sits today. If something else is requested from the applicant, I would require a new site plan and then have the fire marshal look at that as well.
Okay.
Madam Chair, can I ask one question of the applicant regarding Mr. Bush's comment about a fence along the length of the property line? Is that something that you would be agreeable to in the event that they granted the variance?
For the parking?
Correct. If they granted the parking spaces, would you do the fence all the way across the rear yard?
Yeah, we would be open to that.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Anybody else? Yes, unfortunately, we're left with this situation that what are we going to do to try to alleviate some of the issues? This site is just too small for those uses. It doesn't help anybody. Any other comments or questions? Or your motion?
I'm idling right where Mr. Bush is idling right now.
Yeah, it's difficult. We're, speaking for everybody up here, I would say that we are unfortunately in a position where it seems as though we don't have a whole lot of choice because we have to give some relief to the site. And like Mr. Smith said, the only way that we can do some relief is to provide that fence. But
Want a motion?
it's up to you.
I will make a motion. And I'm going to make a motion based on the residents of this community. I recommend denial of ZBA case 22-002. And I'm basing it on the wishes of the residents that are directly behind the site.
Okay.
Support.
Support, Mr. Eaton. All right, the motion is made by Mr. Bush, supported by Mr. Eaton.
Can we have some discussion about the criteria that you felt that they didn't reach regarding their request for the variance? I know you talked about the fact that it was self-created.
Oh, yeah, we can if you'd like to. Let me see. Like I said when I said a practical difficulty, I think the practical difficulty that was written in here basically blames our zoning ordinance for the lack of ability to get parking, which I totally disagree with.
And you had a
If
point,
we had a smaller site, then we could have been fine in a different building.
you had a point about the tenants and the intensity of uses.
Absolutely. The number 3, not self-created, it is self-created. I don't like getting an application that says it's not self-created when it is. I mean, it's self-created along with previous planners not catching it. And that's concerning. And you know what? That's why those people aren't here anymore. Because they just didn't do their job.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right, on that, we have a motion to deny. I will take a roll vote. Mr. White?
Just so, a motion to deny, so that would, yes means deny. I just want to make
Correct.
sure. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
It's kind of backwards. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Eaton?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes?
And Mrs. Honay, yes. All right, your motion is denied.
Well, the request for the variance is denied.
Request for the variance is denied. Okay. Any additional committee reports?
None.
Have a motion for adjournment then.
Sure. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we've got Mr. Eaton and we've got Mr. Witt. Adjournment at 7:06 p.m. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.